So Refuse Fascism, we went down there because this regime needs to be driven out of power. And, it is a fascist regime. It's the white supremacy of the fascist thugs from below, but then it's also repression and the stripping of civil liberties from the state. And you have a whole regime that's it's stripping away civil liberties. There's what happened to Heather Heyer, where the car drove into the protester. There's now 20 states where they're trying to legalize this, make it legal for cars to run over protesters. And you have the police terror, where you had Donald Trump, speaking in front of the Long Island police saying, I want them to be roughed up even more. They're taking the gloves off the police. They've issued a new category for Black Lives Matter activists, calling them black identity extremists, the FBI. This is fascism. It's a qualitative change in how society is governed. And there is a period of time that we have identified since the founding of Refuse Fascism at the inauguration, that you have a small window of time to act before it can become too late. And this is, if you've seen that show, The Handmaid's Tale, there's all of these flashbacks. I won't spoil it, but there's all of these flashbacks where they're like, how did we get to where we are at? And, and you see that there are these moments where these little things were being hammered into place, step by step by step, and then there's a clampdown that happens. And, this is really what we're facing, and they've done great damage. They're poised to do worse. You have a demented fascist with his finger on the nuclear button. And he's threatening humanity, and he's threatening the world. And so the call we made was, in the name of humanity, say no to white supremacy. We refuse to accept a fascist America. This nightmare must end. The Trump-Pence regime must go. And these fascist mobs who went in Charlottesville and who were, going to the White House that day, they are Trump's people. They are his fascist thugs. They are his modern-day stormtroopers. And they were fulfilling his mission when they ran over cars with protesters. They were fulfilling what he said when he said, I long for the days when protesters can be dragged out on stretchers. And so we went there both because, this can't go down. We can't let this happen. But also, we have to be real. We can't just protest. We have to drive this regime out of power. And this was part of transforming the kind of people that we need. We need a people who are going to go in the streets despite the threats. We need a people who are going to go and not just do this for themselves, but in the name of humanity. We need a people who are going to sacrifice, drive for hours and hours, and be very tired and sleeping those are the kind of people that we need. And I think that we forged some of that kind of people out of this experience. And I think that there's, thousands more who we could draw, who are becoming. We have to transform them into the kind of people that we need to be. And refusefascism.org, we are organizing for something very concrete. We're preparing for the time when tens of thousands of people, students, immigrants, a lot of the people who were out, at the white supremacist rally, to take to the streets in every city, in every town in America, not stopping until our demand is met. And in doing that, taking to the streets day after day, night after night, creating a political situation where this regime would be driven from power. And this is not a nut job idea or, something that we just pulled out of our butts, but it's been done before. They did it 2 months ago in Armenia, 2 years ago in South Korea, 5 years ago in Egypt. People have driven out regimes, and there's no damn reason we can't do it here. And we have to. And we have to. For the 7 billion people on this planet. That is who we're doing this for, in the name of humanity. And it was just, there were people who had, there were people who had come from all over. We mobilized, I think it was like 50 people who came from Detroit, Cleveland, New York. There were people who we met in D.C., people in Washington, D.C. They opened up their homes to us. And part of what people told us, and this is what, part of what we were trying to do to forge the kind of people we need is, one, you had to have ways of involving people in a way that they felt could make a difference. So people opening their homes to us, people who fed us, people who helped us, introduce us to their friends and coming out with us or putting on the shirts with us. And there were people who came who it was like their first protest, and they have never been to anything like this before. And there were two things that I felt that were part of our strength in mobilizing and organizing people. And one of the things was that, one, like giving people a way to actually be part of this, to join us, and giving them a way in a way that they felt they mattered. And then the second thing was actually having the space and room to like orient people with what we were talking about, and giving them the courage and feeling the power of us together. Like, you can feel the energy here, of people really getting a sense of, that there's a way to stop this, both to stop this regime, but also I want to give a shout out to the Revolution Club, because, a lot of times you hear you say, those revolutionaries, maybe we should water down our message so we don't scare people. Actually, having the revolutionaries there was a strength, and having people who have a way out of this madness, and that being advocated for and argued over, and people putting out different ideas. This is really much more of the movement that we need, where you have that as part of the mix. And so I feel like those two factors, if we have a way to drive out this regime, we have a battle plan, a call to action, there's a way to do it to drive out this regime. And then, also that the world doesn't have to be this way. We can actually end this. So those two things were very important. And then just one thing that I'll share that I found very moving was that people had found at the end of the protest, it was like we all came together, all the people from around the country, and sat in a circle, and people shared thoughts. And people said that they felt hope in all the different kinds of people who had came out to stand against this. And people didn't know what was going to happen. Like, they didn't know, what it was going to be like, whether it was going to be 100 of us or whatever. I think people did come. Many people came, knowing that they were putting their lives on the line. I don't think you could go and remember what happened to Heather Heyer and not think of that. But one of the things that was very important was us really giving people the courage. And this is our pledge, and it was a big part of how we organize people and mobilize people and have people have this strength to really come out. And so it says, we pledge that we will not stand aside while there is still a chance to stop a regime that imperils humanity and the earth itself. Join us. Let's stand together with conviction and courage, overcoming fear and uncertainty, to struggle with all we've got to demand the Trump-Pence regime must go. And so this was part of what was forged is, in the name of humanity, and us struggling together with courage and conviction. And I think that this was really a core of what brought people together.